Commanders hire Dan Quinn to match with their new general manager, Adam Peters, to lead this franchise into the future.
The way that we live is not for everybody, okay? It's not, all right? Because we're going to run and put our bodies on people in a violent manner.
Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blues, we cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So I don't have to tell you what the lead story is today. The Washington Commanders executed a blockbuster trade with the New Orleans Saints to acquire Pro Bowl cornerback Marshon Lattimore. This is the game-changing, needle-moving move that I didn't think was possible. I did not think this type of move was possible. And if this type of move wasn't possible, I wasn't interested in a trade. But yet, here we are, sitting here 9 weeks in, heading into week 10 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, talking about this team trading for a Pro Bowl caliber corner at the weakest position on this team's roster. You're now helping fortify that position to give you a chance to compete in this division amongst the likes against the A.J. Browns and Devontae Smiths of the world, the CeeDee Lambs of the world, the Malik Neighbors of the world, right? That's just in the division. That's just in the division. We haven't had a number one corner here in quite some time. All right. Probably since the last time we traded for a corner and got this excited, which was Josh Norman. All right. That's the last time we probably had a number one corner here in Washington. It's been a while, right? What does this do? Now, if you're looking for my initial reaction, if you're looking for a thorough breakdown of what this actual trade means for the Commanders, I did a bonus pod where I was live when this news came down. I reacted to it initially, and we talked probably about 35, 40 minutes extensively about this trade, what it means for the Commanders, all that stuff. So if you're looking for that extended version, the extendo clip of what this could potentially mean, then you need to go to that live stream that I did earlier. It's towards the front of it because that live stream was like 4 hours long, essentially. However, the trade happened relatively early in that stream. So go check that out if you're looking for the extended version. But what I will tell you is that this gives us defensive liberties and freedoms that did not exist prior to this trade. I don't have to tell you what this does for the secondary. I don't have to tell you what this means for the team. Let me just tell you this right now. This trade means we're Super Bowl contenders. Okay? Yeah, I just said that. This trade, if he's healthy and he's the Marshon Lattimore that I've come to know and love, he's one of my favorite corners in the entire NFL. If you've been watching me for any amount of time, you know that I have a strong affinity for Marshon Lattimore. He's a dog, a straight up dog. He's a wolf. Okay? And when he's locked in, there aren't many better in the league than Marshon Lattimore. So if we're getting that guy and he's healthy, we're Super Bowl contenders. Because we know what this offense is capable of. The biggest question mark has been and continues to be this defense. You take away one of the biggest question marks, you allow the defensive staff to have some of the freedoms that they want to enjoy, to allow them to do some of the things that they want to do. And I talked about this on Sunday. Remember when I talked about them not wanting to come out of that too high shell to stop the run for fearing of what could happen on the outsides? Now you don't have to think about that as much. You can come out of that too high shell knowing that Marshon Lattimore can hold down one side of the field. And if you need to rotate that safety to the other side of the field to help whomever's on the outside there, you can do that. You can do that. So this is a massive move. Massive. It makes us instant Super Bowl contenders. It allows us to compete at a much higher level within the division. Our biggest fear when we play teams like Philadelphia and Dallas, who's going to cover CeeDee Lamb? Who's going to cover A.J. Brown? Now you have a guy. Now you have a guy. Now you have a fighting chance. When you play teams with upper echelon receivers, with true number ones, now you got a guy. It changes everything. Didn't think this was possible. And so obviously we've talked compensation. I did that on the stream. Quickly, the Commanders receive Lattimore and a 2025 fifth round selection. They give up a 2025 third, fourth, and sixth round pick. So 3 picks in total. I said a guy, and literally we had this conversation yesterday. I went through his contractual situation, what's left on the contract, how old he is. We did this yesterday on the show, on CNN yesterday, thinking that this was a potential opportunity. Not sure if the Saints would pull the trigger, not sure if we'd be willing to give up what it was worth. I said he's worth a second round pick. Well, if you tally up a 3, a 4, and a 6, that's a second round pick, folks. We just spread it out over 3 different rounds. And if you want to get even more in depth, we had 2 3s, one because of the Jahan Dotson trade with the Eagles and our third round pick. You know which one's going to be the higher of the 2? Our pick, okay? You know which one, or which one's going to be the lower of the 2 picks and the worst of the 2 picks? Our pick. We want the Dolphins third round selection that we got from the Philadelphia Eagles because the Dolphins stink. We kept that one and we gave them our third round pick. So the lesser of the 2. And then in the 6th round, they wanted their 6th round pick back. We got that same 6th round pick from the Saints, trading them John Ridgeway, and they say, hey, we want our 6th round pick back. Here you go. It's all yours. So in essence, we traded away Marshon Lattimore for a 2nd round pick, or you could say we traded him for a 4th round pick. Clearly, they got a 3 and a 6, but we had extras in those 2 rounds. And oh, by the way, the 4th round pick, we converted it to a 5th. So we downgraded it from a 4 to a 5. So it feels like you really didn't give up much for a potential game-changing cornerback at the weakest position currently on the roster. One of the conversations that we were having was who was going to be cut to make room for Lattimore. We waited for that information. It didn't come. As soon as I got off that live stream, boom, we found out that F.A. Obata had been cut. I had asked the question, what are they going to do from a number standpoint? Like, we got to get this man in a 20-something, right? I don't want to see Marshon Lattimore running around in 33. I don't want to see him running around in some crazy cockamamie jersey number. We got to get this man some legitimate threads. We got to get him a dope number. All of the single-digit numbers are spoken for. I don't want to see him in the teens because that's a nasty look for a corner. I don't want to see him wearing, number 15, right? That's a nasty look for a corner. We got to figure out a way to get him in the 20s. All of the 20s are really spoken for. Quan Martin's 20. Sean Taylor's 21. 22 is Defoe. 23 is Chris Rodriguez. 24 is Michael Davis. 25 is, I don't know who 25 is, but 25 is somebody on this roster. Somebody's occupying the number 25. I just can't think of who it is at this current juncture. But it'll come to me. 26 is Benjamin St. Juice. 27, I don't know who 27 is. That's funny because that's the one jersey number that no one seems to ever want to wear in Washington. We don't have a ton of 27s running around. I know Walt Harris was 27, I think, for a number of years here. He's the one that always sticks out to me What number did Fred Smoot wear? Did he wear 27? He might have worn 27. Those are probably the most notable 27s of recent note. I don't know who's wearing 27 at this current juncture, but seems like people stay away from 27. Daryl Green is 28, 29. Somebody has 29. I can't remember, but the 20s are pretty much off limits. Somebody's got 29. Matter of fact, let me just look it up real quick. I can get that information and find out who is what in terms of numbers. Let's see. So 25 is St. Juice. I had it mixed up. 25 is St. Juice. 26 is Jeremy McNichols. Nobody's wearing 27 or 29. So I guess there you have it. He could wear one of those two numbers, 27 or 29. No one's wearing either one of those two numbers. 27 sounds good to me. If he wants 29, 29 might actually look better than 27 might. I think that's what we're going to end up having to do here is get him one of those numbers. Nobody's wearing 15, but 15's nasty. Who wants to do 15, right? That's why it's available. 15, it just doesn't look good on an NFL uniform. That's why a lot of people stay away from the number 15 unless it has some sort of significance to you. 23 is currently available, it looks like. Because remember, technically speaking, Chris Rodriguez Jr. is 23, but he's on the practice squad. He's not actually on the active roster, so they could snatch that number away from him, which Lattimore's number is 23. I'm thinking that's what's going to happen. Hey, bro, you got to come up off 23. Chris Rodriguez is about to be, 20, 25, or excuse me, 20, 29 or 27 or something like that, which is fine by me. But I think that's what's going to ultimately happen. He's got to come up off that 23 because he's not actively on the roster. He's on the practice squad. And I hate to do C-Rod like that because he just had a really good game. But, hey, bro, run me that 23 and hand that over to Marshon Lattimore. So really excited. This makes us Super Bowl contenders. That's what effectively has been done by this trade taking place today is we've entered our name into the mix because we knew we weren't good enough to play with upper echelon offenses with our defense as is. We knew that. And I had resigned to that fact. I was cool with making the playoffs, winning a playoff game or two, and just being done with that. Now, we've got a chance to not only make the playoffs, win a couple of games, but even take it further now. We got a chance to compete with the big dogs, right? Because now we can get more aggressive with our blitz packages. We can get real saucy with some of the looks that we're given because you don't have to worry about keeping two safeties high, right? You don't have to do that anymore. You can play more man coverage. The real question now becomes, and this is the debate that I've been having with people since the trade was consummated, is who comes off the field, right? Who is he starting opposite of? Most people, and I think this is probably what's going to ultimately happen, is that they're going to bump inside Mike Sainristil. So Frozone goes from boundary to nickel, and you go with Marshon Lattimore outside opposite of Juice, and Noah Igbenogany comes off the field. Personally, and I know DQ has been adamant that that's what they want to do is they want to kick, Mikey Sainristil back inside. He's been talking about it all year. So logically, that's what's going to happen, right? If I were in charge, which I'm not, and Joe Wick Jr. has even said, he said this a week ago, it's going to be hard to move Mikey inside because of what he's been doing at boundary corner. And furthermore, he's been so good outside. Noah Igbenogany has been good inside that you don't need to touch it. To me, They've talked those two up in particular about how they've tackled, how they've been playing the way that they want their guys to play, which is fast and physical and violent. Those two have come down and been physical and tackled and attacked the line of scrimmage. I wouldn't take either one of them off the field. We know Frozone isn't coming off the field. We know that. We know either he's going to remain outside or he's going to kick inside, but he's not coming off the field. The question is Noah Igbenogany or Benjamin St-Juste coming off the field? For me, it'd be Benjamin St-Juste. Because to me, if you take Frozone and move him inside and take Noah Igbenogany off the field, you're going to still have the same problems you've been having, which teams are just going to attack Benjamin St-Juste. Now, if you don't have that number one receiver going at Juice now, and instead that number one receiver is being assigned Marshon Lattimore, then you feel a lot better about your chances of not getting torched. But if they got a quality, like if you're playing the Eagles, okay, fine. I might not attack, Marshon Lattimore. I may not go to A.J. Brown, but I'm going to Smitty. That's still a matchup that I feel good about. He can't cover Smitty. So anytime you run into a team with two of them, if we're playing the Rams, hey, okay, you take Puka Nacua, Marshawn. Cooper Kupp's still going to eat Benjamin St-Juste's lunch. If they got two, we still in trouble. To me, if you leave Frozone outside, now I feel confident that we can play with anybody. I don't give a shit how many receivers you got. Personally, I would leave the slot and the other outside position alone. Benjamin St-Juste goes to the bench and Marshon Lattimore is inserted. That's how I would go about this. But I think ultimately what you're going to see is Juice stay on one side, Marshon on the other side, and then Frozone gets kicked inside to nickel, which is where he ultimately is going to be. That's what they drafted him to be. I want to see him play nickel, but I was willing to wait until next year. Give him a full offseason to process, give him a full offseason to be able to watch what some of the best nickels in the league do, implement some of that stuff to his game, and then he can kind of readjust himself to playing the nickel next year instead of trying to readjust in season when he's playing spectacularly outside as a boundary corner. To be moving these pieces on the fly now, again, you got some time to kind of work through some of the kinks that are going to come with it. Do you really want to do it during this stretch of football, though? Personally, your toughest stretch of the season arguably is on the horizon here with the Steelers, quick turnaround Eagles, and then Cowboys. Do you really want to be experimenting right now? Or do you just want to say, hey, you guys stay there. Juice, you're out. Marshon, you're in. Let's go to work. That's the real, to me, discussion. They're probably going to kick Mikey inside and leave Juice on the field. And I think you still have the same problems if you do that. Even though, theoretically speaking, Juice should not be covering anyone's number one at that point. Marshon should be traveling, especially if you're playing man coverage. He should be running with whoever's the best receiver for that team. He should be moving with him, and Juice should be covering whomever's the number two. But to eliminate all of that, you could just keep Frozone on the field outside and keep Noah Igbenogany inside. We haven't had any issues since week 2 inside, and that's when Noah Igbenogany went inside, and that's when Frozone went outside. We haven't had any issues. So why would you want to mess with that? If it's not broke, why are you looking to fix it? The broken piece is Benjamin St-Juste. So just fix that. But we'll see what they ultimately decide to do. That's a good problem to have. The fact that we're having that discussion means things have changed significantly. It feels different because it is different. We're 7-2, and we're pushing our chips, not necessarily all of them, to the center of the table. That's not what this move says. But what it does say is, hey, I see your playoffs. I raise you NFC Championship game / Super Bowl. That's what this says. I see your playoffs, and I raise you NFC Championship game / Super Bowl. We up in the ante. I love it. Damn, it feels good to be a gangster. Ain't nothing but a Jaden party, party. Ain't nothing but a Jaden party, party. Ain't nothing but a Jaden party. Let's go on to In Other News, where we continue this discussion surrounding the Marshon Lattimore trade. Let's look at some of the reactions that people have had, different accounts, entities have had surrounding this trade. We're also going to take a trip around the NFC East. Obviously, things are heating up in the division. A big week, honestly, with the Cowboys and the Eagles playing. That game has lost a little bit of its luster due to the struggles of the Cowboys, but it's still a big game within the NFC East. So we'll talk about all of those things and more. But let's get to some reaction to the Marshon Lattimore trade from various entities, personalities, people, fans, etc. Let's take a look at the reaction to the trade. So there've been a lot of misnomers put out there surrounding this move. I know a lot of y'all saw L.A.B. and Eagles fans hating on social media. That's fear talking. We talked about that on the bonus pod. I had a whole segment talking about the fear that is resonating from this move. They were already fearful of us. This makes us even more scary and dangerous. And so you're seeing that fear play itself out in the form of hate on social media. So if you want to hear me talk about that, again, go watch that bonus pod. But let's talk about some of the things that you see in front of you. So, I saw something on social media from an Eagles fan. I think it might have even been L.B. He been getting toasted by, wide receivers, running back, whatever. PFF put this out. I'm not a big PFF guy, right? I'm not a big, analytics buff. That's not my thing. But facts are facts, right? Marshon Lattimore has not allowed a single touchdown, has not allowed a touchdown in single coverage since the 2021 season. So when he's one-on-one, man-to-man against a wide receiver, not playing some form of zone, right? When he's locked up man-to-man against a wide receiver, he hasn't allowed a touchdown since 2021. That's a combination of teams just staying away from him in those situations and him having great coverage, and whether it's pass interference or it's illegal contact, he's just not allowing this shit to happen, right? Whatever it is. That's a hell of a stat. We in 2024, mind you, okay? He hasn't allowed a touchdown in man-to-man coverage since 2021. That's crazy. Now, he also has been hurt a lot. So that has taken away some opportunities for him to be targeted in those situations as well. So it's a lot of different factors, but that's still a long damn time to not have given up a touchdown, okay? This one from the 33rd team on Twitter, on X. They write, QBs have a 70.4 passer rating when targeting Marshon Lattimore over the past 3 seasons. Commanders get their lock down. Yeah. Also from the 33rd team, Marshon Lattimore also hasn't allowed a receiving touchdown in coverage since 2021. Again, single coverage, meaning one-on-one. Marshon Lattimore's catch rate over expected throughout the years. So you see the numbers there. We won't get into the specifics of that, but you see what it is, right? Next Gen Stats speaks about one of those numbers, the one from 2024. Marshon Lattimore has allowed a negative 12.3 completion percentage over expected when targeted as the nearest defender this season, the third lowest among 75 outside cornerbacks. Lattimore has been targeted on just 9.7 of his coverage snaps, second lowest among outside cornerbacks. So teams are going away from him. The only 2 corners that have a better expected, over expected when target percentage are Jalen Johnson of the Bears and Renardo Green. Like when we played the Bears, I'm not even sure we threw at Jalen Johnson once. We just stayed away from him and targeted the corner that was waving to the fans. Stevenson. We targeted Stevenson. That's who Terry got for the deep ball. That's who Terry put most of his yardage on. I don't even know if we threw at Jalen Johnson in that game, right? Generally, if you got one of them corners, you just stay away from them dudes, especially if the other guy on the opposite side is sus. You just go after him, right? Why do I even bother? Sam Fortier, who is a beat writer, who writes for the Washington Post, wrote, Commanders adding Marshon Lattimore changes the whole defense. Joe Witt Jr. can put Benjamin St. Juste on wide receiver twos, move Mike Sainristil back inside and be more aggressive / stop the pass better out of single high. And I talked about that in depth on the bonus pod. So if you're looking for that, and we'll talk more about that as well as time passes. But that's the biggest benefit to this. Stopping the run becomes a lot easier. The blitz packages become more aggressive and exotic, and you can play more man coverage, right? I mean, that's what they like to do at their core. Al Galdi wrote this. Adam Peters did not turn Jahan Dotson into Marshon Lattimore, did even better. Traded the lesser of the Commanders' 2025 third-round picks, kept the pick from Philadelphia via Miami for Dotson, and dealt one of New Orleans' own picks back to the Saints. Master class, because that's Chef P. And we know all he does is cook it up. That's all he does. Continuing on, PFF Washington Commanders writes, Marshon Lattimore since 2021, 35.1% open target rate allowed, 5th best among corners, a minimum of 1,000 snaps. Your newest Washington Commander. Look, man, I don't have to tell you, Marshon Lattimore is one of them ones at the cornerback position when healthy and when locked in. And so none of this should surprise you, because if you've been following him, then you know what he's all about. NFL on CBS. Remember, when we were going through our process to find our new GM, Adam Peters, a committee was formed, and one of the guys on that committee was former Vikings GM Rick Spielman. He was talking on CBS Sports about this trade, and this was his quote. They gave up a lot, but it was worth it, but you got to still balance out. You still got to build the football team in the future. So next to him is Pete Prisco is next to him on his right. And Pete Prisco was saying, hey, if I were them, I'd go after Azeez Ojulari, but they're not going to trade him in the division, right? Giants aren't going to give him to the Commanders and keep him in the division. Then he said they should go after Arden Key from the Titans. And that's what prompted Rick Spielman to be like, bro, you can't give up all of your future assets. You still need to draft some players. Like, they gave up a lot to get them, but that's where they feel like they're at. They feel like they can win something this year. You don't make this move unless you feel like you can make something shake this year, which is why I told you we are now Super Bowl contenders. We went from, hey, we're making the playoffs. We may make a little bit of noise too. No. We not only making the playoffs, we gon' wreck some shit, and we may make it all the way to the Super Bowl and win that bitch if you're not careful. Now that we got Marshon Lattimore. Mina Kimes writes, Commanders play a lot of man coverage, but have been much better in zone this year. QBR of 51 versus 68. Acquiring Lattimore should improve their ability to play man, which I'm pretty sure she meant I'd imagine is a priority for Quinn. Super fun trade. And then B. Mitch and Finley wrote, Adam Peters stole Marshon Lattimore. So that's just a little bit of the reaction from everyone in regards to the trade. And there's plenty more, right? I mean, a lot of excitement amongst Commanders fans, a lot of hate from rival crews around the league, which, again, if you're not evoking that amount of emotion from rival fans, then you're not doing anything. We didn't have these issues with other fan bases when we were trash. We didn't have fan bases of other teams like the Bears coming at us. We didn't have Eagles fans worried about our every move. Now they are, right? Because we're a threat. That's fear talking, right? Feels good. Celebrate. We're in a position to go out and make a trade deadline move that makes us Super Bowl contenders. Haven't been able to say something like that since probably 2000. Going into the 2000 season, we were Super Bowl among one of the highest Super Bowl favorites in the NFC. Coming off that 99 season when we made it to the divisional round. It came within 2 points of beating Tampa Bay. So this feels great. This is awesome. This is so much fun. Speaking of fun, let's go around the NFC East, where we are still the managers up in this bitch. Obviously, we lead the division at 7-2. Eagles, a half game behind us at 6-2. They got a scare from the Jacksonville Jaguars in Week 9. We were obviously victorious over the Giants, and we got a little bit of a scare ourselves, 27-22. The Giants, we beat them, and the Cowboys lost to the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday, dropping them to 3-5. So this is officially a two-team race in the NFC East. We kind of figured that, but I thought Dallas still had one more last gasp in them. But between the effort I saw against Atlanta and Dak getting injured and kind of just the vibe I get from them, they feel dead. Now, I'll say this. You beat Philadelphia on Sunday, and you're not right back in it, but you have a pulse. Right now, you're dead. Okay? At 3-5, you are dead. But you beat Philadelphia, and all of a sudden, it might be a faint pulse, but you have a pulse. But going into that game with Cooper Rush, you're probably going to get back two of your bigger, and better defenders in Deron Bland and Michael Parsons. But going into that game with Cooper Rush, who might actually at this point right now be an upgrade over Dak. Dak has been awful. He's been garbage this season. Who knows? We'll see what happens. They've won with Cooper Rush in the past, right? They almost beat Philadelphia with Cooper Rush. Was it 2 years ago? Yeah, it was 2 years ago. They almost beat Dallas or Philadelphia with Cooper Rush on a Monday, a Sunday night. I think it was a Sunday night. I think that game was that a Sunday night game? It was either a Thursday, a Sunday, or a Monday. I felt like, but they fell short. Either way, I still like the Eagles in that game. And obviously we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so more likely than not, no matter what happens in our game, if the Eagles win, they're in first place. Obviously, if we lose and they win, they're in first place by a half game. If we win, we remain in first place. The only way next week's contest against the Eagles isn't for first place is if we win and they lose, which it's hard for me to imagine that happening with all of the turmoil going on in Dallas. Speaking of which, they made a trade today for a wide receiver. I talked about that ad nauseum on the bonus pod. So if you're looking for a breakdown of them acquiring Jonathan Mingo from the Panthers in exchange for a 4th-round pick, Cowboys also receive a 7th-rounder in that deal. But you got to go to that bonus pod. I talked about that deal and what it may represent for the Cowboys. But it was a bit of a head-scratcher when you look at their situation this year. But I think that was more of a situation for the future as well. But I digress. Cowboys look cooked this year at 3-5, searching for answers. Their quarterback is saying they effing suck. They do suck, and I don't see them beating the Philadelphia Eagles this week. And so the Giants, meanwhile, are over in Germany. The last of the International Series games, I believe, is taking place, and I think they are taking on the Carolina Panthers. This is a big game if you're a Giants fan. This is the difference between you ending up with the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd pick in the draft versus ending up with the 5th or 6th like you did last season. This is one of those games you need to find a way to lose, and Carolina probably going to be in the market for a quarterback next year. Like, this is the thing. The New England Patriots don't need a quarterback. So that's the team that you want to continue to keep losing end up with the first or second pick, because that'll allow you to be at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 even, and get back up into the top 2 and get you a quarterback. If one of those teams like New England ends up there who have their future quarterback already. You don't want New England to end up with the 5th or 6th pick. Meanwhile, teams like Cleveland, Carolina, and Tennessee end up 1, 2, and 3, because they're all going to be selecting quarterbacks and you're on the outside looking in because they're not moving off the spot, similar to this year's draft where the Giants tried to get up into the top 3 and couldn't do it because those 3 teams all needed quarterbacks. So if you're the Giants, this is a massive game because Carolina's not winning very many more games this season. New England's not winning a bunch more games. Tennessee's not winning a bunch more games this season. Cleveland's not winning a bunch more games this season. All right? You can't afford to win 2 or 3 more games. And this is a team that you're fighting. You're fighting with. The Raiders also stink. They filed and cleaned house, and they're a mess. You can't afford to beat Carolina. You can't afford to do it. And what also hurts you is now Dallas is starting to stink. And you needed everybody in this division to be good, help your strength of schedule. That would put you in a much better position. But being that Dallas stinks, that kind of hurts you too. So, or actually, I think that helps you. I take that back. You want your strength of schedule to be less, not better, right? Because that means you're even worse. Whatever the case may be, you want to lose to Carolina, and I don't think you're going to do that, but we will see. So, interesting times in the NFC East, to say the least. Things are about to get real. Eagles have the Cowboys this week. Then we have the Eagles the week after. Then we have the Cowboys the week after that. So things are going to get pretty interesting in the East over the next 3 weeks. And we look to be at the heart of it, right where we belong, or really at the top of it. That sounds a lot better. Where we've been for much of the season and plan on staying after the acquisition of Marshon Lattimore. Anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Commanders Nightly News. Do me a favor, leave a comment down in the comment section. How are you feeling about the Marshon Lattimore trade? Does this change the outlook for you of the season? How did you find out about the trade? How did you react to it, etc., etc.? Looking forward to all your comments down in the comment section of this video. I am elated, and I am officially using the SB phrase. This makes us a Super Bowl contending team. If we're getting the Marshon Lattimore that I've come to know and love, we are officially a Super Bowl contending team and dangerous. What this move says to the rest of this locker room is, hey, we believe we can win right now. You don't make this move if you don't think you can win big right now. And not only is this a right now move, you still got Lattimore for another 2 years after this. So this is a big move now and potentially into the very near future. But we talked about that on yesterday's episode, so you already know if you've been watching faithfully. In any event, I'm your man Louie T, signing off. You guys have a good one. Take care. We got Marshon Lattimore. It feels different because it is different. See you next time. Yittity!
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone.